One thing becomes obvious when you rewatch SpongeBob. Everyone is loud. Everyone loves to lose their minds over things that should not matter that much. SpongeBob SquarePants has always been expressive to an absurd degree, but when you binge watch the show like that, something interesting happens. Because there are so many crashouts, you kind of stop remembering which ones were actually deserved and which ones were just plainly stupid. So instead of ranking the loudest meltdowns, I wanted to look at the moments where the crashout was actually valid. And to do that, it makes sense to start simple, with Mr. Krabs. The guy who 80% of his lines are just screaming at his employees inside the Krusty Krab. He's the cheap boss, alright. That's not even an insult. Cutting corners, squeezing every pocket until it dries up, that mindset makes him very sensitive to anything that feels like an unnecessary expense. So yeah, of course he loves to yell. Across the show itself, SpongeBob, Squidward, and Patrick repeatedly push the restaurant to the edge of bankruptcy. Sometimes accidentally, sometimes through sheer stupidity, sometimes through things that really shouldn't have happened during business hours. One of the most iconic examples is from Squid on Strike. After arguing about employees' rights, SpongeBob and Squidward decided to go on strike until Krabs' unfair deduction policy was abolished. At first, Krabs didn't hesitate to just fire them on the spot and hire some new kids. But after losing money due to the inability of those kids, Krabs swallows his pride and begs Squidward to come back. Sadly, SpongeBob didn't get the memo in time because he's already gone to thrashed Krusty Krabs to secure his job forever.
In order to pay off these damages, you two are gonna work for me forever!
But not all of his crashouts are about money. Every once in a while, it's something much more personal. Like in Crab Borg. Due to some stupid misunderstanding, SpongeBob and Squidward are convinced they're not seeing the real Krabs, but a robot replacement. So they came up with a plan to prevent this robot from taking over the world. They tie him down, slap him silly, and barrage him with confusing questions, to the point that Krabs just loses it.
Squidward!
I'd be mad too if my employees slapped the shit out of me for no good reason. Krabs really does a lot of shouting over the years, huh? It just feels like a default voice for him. And Clancy Brown has a real talent when it comes to shouting. But I guess it's not a surprise considering this is the same guy who was barking orders long before SpongeBob ever aired.
Do you get me? Sir, yes, sir! Do you get me?
Sir, yes, sir!
Do you get me?
Either way, when Krabs snaps, you always know why, because it's mostly about money. But some characters don't explode over money at all. They lose it over pride, identity, and being disrespected. Which brings us to Sandy. Sandy is one of those characters who almost never loses it over something trivial. Partly because she's just a calm, capable, and emotionally smart person. So when you see Sandy lose it, it's always because someone crossed a line. Like in Survival of the Idiots. SpongeBob and Patrick wander into her tree dome while she's hibernating, get trapped in there during winter, and start panicking because they're freezing. And in desperation to fight the extreme cold, they did some pretty crazy stuff, including stealing her fur. Sandy, of course, did not take that very well. Another episode like Texas showed us how dangerous one mammal can be when you pick on her feelings. Sandy is trying so hard to cope with her homesickness here, and SpongeBob and Patrick do try to cheer her up. But they just don't really understand what she's feeling. When we reach that moment at Goo Lagoon, you can see that she's really struggling with it. But of course, the real breaking point is when SpongeBob and Patrick start throwing out the stupid Texas jokes.
Hey, Patrick, what am I now?
Stupid?
No, I'm Texas.
What's the difference?
Y'all best apologize, or I'm gonna be on you like ugly on an ain't.
I mean, who wouldn't crash out when two idiots start making fun of your hometown? So Sandy goes unleashed and starts to hunt them down like animals. But in fairness to them, they only did that to prevent her from leaving town and to bait her to her Happy Texas surprise at Krusty Krab. It's pretty sweet, actually. Now that I think about it, we got quite a lot of picking on someone over nothing in the first 2 seasons. Aside from Sandy, Barnacle Boy gets it pretty bad too. He's constantly disrespected just because there's a boy in his name.
1 Krabby Patty for me, and a Pipsqueak Patty for the boy.
I guess this time around he's just had enough of it and crashes out for good.
Feed this, old man.
Not only does he lash out at Mermaid Man, he goes as far as joining Man Ray and Dirty Bubble on the dark side, running around the city, terrorizing people's lives, all because nobody would stop treating him like a child. Luckily, it all ends well. Turns out, Barnacle Boy just wanted a full-size Krabby Patty. So yeah, maybe he's still a boy at heart after all. Which actually makes him a pretty good bridge to our next character, someone with a very childlike emotional state, Patrick Star. Now, Patrick is a weird case, because most of the time, he's not crashing out, he's the one causing it. Which is why it always stands out when he's the one crashing out. One way to do it is by experiencing physical pain. Like in Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 4. Leading to his torture, Patrick had been slammed into the ground by Man Ray repeatedly. But even here, it's somewhat deserved. For Man Ray, I mean. Man Ray only goes that far because Patrick keeps messing things up in the first place. The box bit, the wallet bit, Patrick's not helping, okay? Yeah, Patrick's emotional crashouts are way rarer. Sometimes it comes from a soft spot, like Valentine's Day. Patrick's been waiting all day for his Valentine present from SpongeBob, but SpongeBob just keeps stalling while giving gifts to everyone else. And when he gets to Patrick, it's just a handshake. Now, to be fair, no one here is actually being cruel on purpose. SpongeBob did plan something. The real gift, that hot air balloon chocolate thing, just ran into trouble mid-flight. But Patrick doesn't know that. So from his point of view, it just looks like he didn't matter enough to get a gift. It's an awkward, loud crash out that happens with loved ones just because you cared too much. Then you get moments where he's just frustrated in a very Patrick way.
This is all Mr. Krabs' fault. If he hadn't hung that stupid dollar in the first place, I mean, it's not like it looks any different than a regular dollar.
Actually, Patrick does make a good argument here. Why should we stress by treating a dollar like a sacred artifact, especially now that they're already in trouble because they painted it? From his logic, the situation feels stupid, and now they're paying for it. Fortunately, most of the time he just floats back to normal like nothing happened. If anything, Patrick's only valid crash out I can think of is this one.
None of this would have happened if you didn't come back with your infestation. All you've brought us is fleas and trouble and pain and ditching.
After working hard to set up a welcome back party for Sandy, making a cake, and even giving her a new snowboard for a present, things go downhill fast. A flea infestation breaks out inside Sandy's dome. Everyone starts itching, rashes everywhere, and Patrick gets it bad. He's covered in bites, he's in constant pain, and he's trapped inside the dome with no relief, while everyone's solutions just make things worse. It's inevitable. But yeah, I guess Patrick doesn't get a lot of valid crash-out moments. And that contrast becomes a lot more obvious when you look at someone on the other end of Bikini Bottom's emotional spectrum. Because if there's one character in Bikini Bottom you expect to crash out, it's Squidward. I mean, the guy is constantly being pushed past his limits. In Good Neighbors, Squidward just wants a peaceful Sunday, that's it. No work, no noise, no SpongeBob and Patrick turning his life upside down. But of course, he doesn't get it. They wake him up, drag him into their Good Neighbors Lodge nonsense, ruin his relaxation, and by the end of it, he's just fed up.
Yes, I was!
Even one day of peace is too much to ask for in Bikini Bottom. The episode Squidward is proof of one of the messiest days in his life. There's actually 2 moments in this episode. One happens earlier because Squidward just gets tired of trying to get rid of SpongeBob, who just wants to play with him.
It's called I Will Never Play With You.
And then the second one happens after SpongeBob makes a wooden replica of Squidward that somehow ends up stealing his life. the spotlight, his space, even his dignity.
You little wooden fiend! Stop stealing my life!
SpongeBob somehow always manages to bait him through the craziest things, because in Artist Unknown, he drives Squidward crazy without even trying. This one is a classic. Squidward decides to teach an art class on his terms, but SpongeBob just keeps outperforming him, unintentionally turning every lesson into humiliation. By the end, Squidward is so frustrated that he literally smashes his own marble pillars and goes through walls. But of course, sometimes his reasons for crashing out are way more personal, like in Are You Happy Now? SpongeBob spends the entire episode trying to help him find his happiest memory. Sadly, it doesn't go well, and by the end, Squidward just smashes a mountain of SpongeBob papier-mâché statues because that's the one thing he actually enjoys doing at the moment. Even beyond flat-out explosions, a lot of his tension comes from being forced into these situations. I guess that makes most of his crash-outs absolutely reasonable, which sets up a really interesting lead-in to the guy we're closing with, SpongeBob SquarePants. For someone who has been carrying most of the heavy stuff in the show, his crash-outs just feel inevitable. I didn't really notice it until I was putting this video together. There's just so many SpongeBob crash-out moments in the show, and most of them are really deserved. Because his breaking point can show up anywhere, from something with a grim plot like the Nasty Patty episode. SpongeBob genuinely believes he just murdered the health inspector, and in desperation, he starts arguing with Mr. Krabs over the accusation, desperately trying to rationalize what just happened.
SpongeBob killed him!
What? You can't pin this whole rap on me!
And sometimes the limit is just one full day of nonsense, like in Stuck in the Ringer. I mean, the guy is literally stuck in the ringer. Patrick keeps making it worse, and by the time he's had enough, Patrick doesn't even understand what's happening. It's just a stressful day.
You ruined my cotton candy!
Good! Maybe now you know how I feel about you ruining my life!
It's somewhat similar to what happens in Rockabye Bivalve with Patrick. After doing all the cleaning, cooking, parenting stuff, Patrick still refuses to acknowledge he's done anything wrong, and when SpongeBob catches him secretly watching TV for overtime...
Overtime! Oh, boy, yeah, you're working. If that's the kind of work you're doing, show me where...
Then you get a different kind of snap in Can You Spare a Dime? This episode is basically Squidward quits after Krabs accuses him of stealing a dime, Squidward moves into SpongeBob's house, and SpongeBob tries to be supportive until he's watching Squidward fall apart while also dealing with Krabs still being Krabs.
You want your dime back? Take it! Now Squidward can come back, right?
Then there's Krusty Love, another episode with a familiar feeling. Krabs is trying to date Mrs. Puff, and SpongeBob ends up in the middle of Krabs' messy love brain, money brain collision, until SpongeBob gets tired of it and calls Krabs out for how he's acting.
Wait! Don't tell me! You want me to run down to the store and buy Mrs. Puff something she doesn't need?
I think this is one of the most recognizable patterns of his crash outs, right? He's trying to help someone, overdoing it, but the person he helps is an ungrateful asshole, then he just snaps. But funny enough, one of the most memorable crash out moments from SpongeBob, at least to me, comes from Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 6, the motion picture. They're in a high-stress situation trying to film the new Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy movie, but after a day of explosions and death-defying stunts, turns out Patrick forgot to open the lens, and that's enough to give us this gem.
We started filming.
It's truly one of the most valid crash outs in SpongeBob history. Of course, I can't put in every one of his crash out moments, otherwise this video would be like 2 hours long. So I'm just gonna say it outright. Which most valid crash out did I miss? Let me know. After watching all of this back to back, one thing becomes pretty clear. Crashing out is part of how Bikini Bottom breathes. Everyone handles stress differently. Some yell immediately, some snap after one bad day, some carry it quietly until there's nothing left. And SpongeBob, more than anyone, crashes out because he cares too much, for too long, in a place that never really slows down. It's a good thing the show resets every episode. If all these moments continued to pile up, SpongeBob would be a miserable person by the end of season 3. Or maybe SpongeBob did remember all of them, and he just has a really good way of handling them. And that's where this connects to something I talked about before. In another video, I broke down how SpongeBob, weirdly enough, brushes up against stoicism. There are actually episodes in this show that quietly carry that philosophy, with SpongeBob right at the center of it. So if you want to see how SpongeBob balances his emotions with his philosophy, that video is already up. Maybe it's the answer to this video. I'll see you on the next dive.